The first shriek of sirens shattered dawn's hush as I emerged from my farmhouse, coffee mug in hand, blinking at the flashing red and blue lights pooling beneath my barn's wide eaves. Last night, I'd invited a handful of friends to test my renovated barn's cavernous loft repurposed as a tactical training site for the local SWAT team. They'd stashed gear inside unmarked duffels. Armored vests, breaching tools, night vision goggles. I'd assured them the remote location would give them the privacy to rehearse high-stakes scenarios away from the glare of city streets. Instead, HOA Karen, her belly pressing against designer yoga pants, her pearl necklace catching the dawn, had stormed through my gate at first light. "What are those suspicious bags doing in your barn?" she barked into her phone, lace of fear drizzling into panic. Moments later, deputies in SWAT cruisers converged on my property, weapons drawn. I took one slow breath, realizing this encounter would test more than my permit. It would challenge the boundaries of entitlement itself. I walked down the gravel drive, letting the gravel crunch under my boots until I stood before her, Karen, trembling with self-righteous terror, her phone still pressed to her ear. "I'm sorry," I said, voice low, calm. "Those are my guests' training supplies." She flicked her gaze to the nearest patrol car. Deputies' rifles steadied with professional restraint. "You can't have military gear here," she stammered. "It's dangerous, it's wrong. I demand you shut this down immediately." I nodded politely. "Give me 5 minutes, Karen. I'll sort it." Back in the barn, I stepped over camouflage netting to find Sergeant Mills and his team in full kit, examining breaching hammers and tactical shields. Without a word, the sergeant tilted his helmeted head and called off the exercise soldiers, slipping off heavy boots, unshouldering weapons with defeated grace. I returned to Karen with paperwork, county permit for private training, indemnity waivers signed by every participant, and a notarized letter from the sheriff's office approving the barn's use as an approved training site. Her jaw slacked. This is valid," she whispered. "But it's still a security risk." I offered a tour, demonstration of safety protocols, locked storage for munitions, liaison with local law enforcement. She muttered something about public safety, yet her daughters tugged at her sleeve, eyeing the SWAT vehicles as if they were carnival rides. On my gravel path, reality dawned on her. Her panic had been predicated on ignorance, not malice. I let her stew in her discomfort as I called the sergeant back in. Within minutes, SWAT reoccupied the barn, this time to demonstrate a simulated hostage rescue for my neighbors. Word spread. By midday, a curious crowd gathered across the fence, children perched on rims of tractors, wives clutching iced tea. Karen watched from behind swing gates, arms crossed like a queen without a kingdom. Sergeant Mills strode forward, unlocking the barn door and issuing an invitation. "Ma'am, we've got an open-door policy today. Come see for yourself." Her face paled as she inched closer, peering at breakaway walls constructed from 2x4s and training dummies. Her metamorphosis from accuser to audience member was palpable. That afternoon, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, detailing Karen's actions: unauthorized trespass, false report to emergency services, and public endangerment. I attached witness statements from the deputies, logs from the SWAT team, and video footage captured by my security cameras. Karen's name was everywhere in the file, her signature on last month's complaint against neighbor barbecues and boat noise now juxtaposed with allegations against my legitimate operation. The board convened an emergency session under heavy scrutiny. Minutes leaked, emails forwarded, neighbors emailed for testimony. The board president, trembling in her own power seat, realized the risk of siding with Karen's vendetta. As dusk fell, I staged a grand demonstration outside the barn, a controlled flashbang, followed by cheers as the SWAT team emerged victorious from the mock scenario. The crowd erupted with applause. I stepped forward to address them. "Folks, this barn isn't a menace, it's a resource. A place we can learn to protect our families and homes." Cameras rolled. Local news reporters scribbled. Karen stood at the edge, her posture deflated, pearl necklace drooping. When the board's emergency vote came that evening, the resolution boiled down to 2 options: censure Karen for misuse of HOA privileges or censure me for alleged security risks. The vote tally was unanimous, 4-0 in my favor, with board members citing due process, permits, and community benefit. But the true twist came at midnight. I discovered a package tucked beneath my front door. A handwritten letter from Karen's 2 daughters, inviting Mizind K and El Malerto their dance recital next week. They'd seen me help their mother navigate her embarrassment, had watched the SWAT demonstration with wide eyes, and wanted to bridge the gap. Tears blurred my vision as I folded the note into my pocket, realizing my victory wasn't in the board's decision, but in Karen's children extending friendship across entitlements divide. Share your verdict was exposing Karen's ignorance justified, or did I escalate things beyond reason? Right or wrong? Dawn broke over my property like a benediction, mist swirling around the barn's silhouette as I unlocked the door. Kayla and Leah Miller, Karen's daughters, waited on the porch, clutching binoculars and trembling laughter. They guided me inside, eager to revisit the night's spectacle through their eyes. Gazing across the training dummies scattered like soldiers at rest, I realized the barn had become more than a forensic stage. It was now a bridge between neighbors once divided by petty tournaments of power. In the days that followed, the barn's role expanded. The local fire department arranged controlled burn drills in adjacent fields. Paramedics practiced casualty evacuation under the loft's rafters. I negotiated with the county parks department to formalize a public-private partnership. The facility would host disaster response training open to all first responders, funded by a modest grant from a veterans foundation. Each drill, each class, stitched the community closer together, weaving solidarity from the frayed threads Karen had once strained. Meanwhile, Karen's niece, whom I'd never met, reached out via email. Sarah Jenkins was an investigative journalist working for a regional paper. She'd covered Karen's exploits for years, but claimed the full picture had eluded her. Intrigued, I invited her to the barn. Over cups of strong coffee beneath flickering fluorescent lights, she confessed that her articles often painted Karen as the villain, never exploring the nuance of her intentions or the vulnerabilities that fueled her tyranny. She believes rules equal safety, Sarah told me, voice soft. She's terrified of chaos, and chaos terrifies her. I nodded, recalling the sheer panic in Karen's eyes when the deputies arrived. No malicious gleam, only fear. Then came the board's public Faruma Town Hall, held in the community center auditorium. Sarah moderated while I presented my proposal for a rotating community safety council. 3 seats elected annually to oversee the barn, mediate disputes, and allocate training schedules. Karen, seated in the back row, looked thin and worn, her satin blouse faded in the auditorium lights. When it was her turn, she rose with trembling hands and spoke not of bylaws or covenants but of duty and care. I only wanted everyone to be safe, she confessed, voice cracking. But I see now that I learned nothing, not about process, not about trust. I let fear dictate my actions. She paused, scanning the crowd. 2 wished to serve on the council, not to lead, but to learn. The audience sat in hushed reflection before erupting in applause. Journalists scribbled furiously, and the board members exchanged stunned looks as the first seedling of reform took root. A week later, the first meeting of the Community Safety Council convened in the barn's loft. Karen arrived early, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows on her face as she arranged chairs in a semicircle. She greeted me with a curt nod, no words needed between us. Over the next hour, we drafted bylaws that prioritized training diversity, transparent scheduling, and safety audits. Lydia, the wildlife officer, proposed environmental safeguards to ensure drills wouldn't harm local habitats. The paramedic captain urged inclusion of mental health first aid in every course. Sarah Jenkins volunteered to chronicle our progress, her articles now framed as guides for replicating our model statewide. As the council adjourned, Karen stayed behind, meticulously labeling the binder that would hold our founding documents, a gesture of humility laden with possibility. Autumn ripened around us, painting the barn's exterior in hues of amber and ochre. I found Karen on the porch one evening, gazing at the detritus of spent pyrotechnics and rubber bullets, now collected in bins for recycling. She traced a finger along the side wall, where once the phrase "not your playground" stood, now replaced by a hand-painted mural. A phoenix rising from intertwining rifles and roses. Beneath it, the words "strength through unity." She turned to me, eyes soft. "Thank you for giving me a second chance," she said. "My fear blinded me, but your resilience taught me courage." I smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. No rival, no subordinate, but co-guardian of our shared space. The year closed with a winter festival on the barn grounds. Hot cider around barrel fire pits, a candlelight vigil honoring fallen first responders, and a silent auction of training memorabilia to fund scholarships for underprivileged students pursuing public service careers. As the final lanterns flickered out, Kayla and Leah ran ahead, their laughter echoing off the rafters like a promise. In that moment, I knew the barn's legacy was secure not as a fortress, but as a sanctuary. So I ask you one last time. When entitlement clashes with empathy, do we choose to escalate or to embrace? Share your verdict, right or wrong.